Hey guys, let's get into how I get out of a self-critical spiral, part 2, the principles. So earlier, I told you my current process steps for getting out of a self-critical spiral. I've linked that article above. And I told you that while you're welcome to borrow what I do, I don't think it's really about the specific process steps because I keep updating and evolving this playbook, even just for myself. I think the real magic is in the principles that allow me to develop and continually adapt this playbook. So here are those principles. They are the core principles of coaching. Principle 1, every thought that you fully believe becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When I think I'm a lazy slob and I believe it 100%, I think it's just a fact, that thought makes me feel ashamed. When I feel ashamed, I procrastinate, I stay in bed, I cancel plans, I watch TV, all of those things. And in doing so, I become a lazy slob. Tangibly, I do lazy slob things per my own mental definition of what that is. And mentally, I reinforce my belief that I'm a lazy slob because look at all the stuff I just did. This is the essence of the self-coaching model. Circumstances exist in the world without any inherent meaning. You have thoughts about those circumstances. You give them a meaning. Those thoughts create feelings. Those feelings drive you to do certain things and simultaneously block you from doing other things. And your actions create a net result, which always confirms the thought that you started out with. But Pooja, you might want to ask me, what about when my shame motivates me to do things? This is almost worse because it puts you into the cruel paradox model. Let me explain what that might look like for me. I think I'm a lazy slob and I believe it 100%. I think it's just a fact. That thought makes me feel ashamed. Now, that shame might motivate me to do things, but how exactly do I do things when I'm operating from shame? I work in a desperate, haphazard, not super thoughtful, less effective way. I make unrealistic, unsustainable plans that lead to boom-bust cycles of productivity, which only make me more convinced that I'm a lazy slob because I can't be consistent. And I'm also primed to notice all the ways that I'm a lazy slob and to ignore or discount all the ways that I'm being productive. This is just how your automatic brain works, taking in all available data and critically analyzing everything all the time would take way too much energy. So your brain just doesn't do that. Instead, your brain constantly filters the world around you to confirm what you already believe. And because of all of this, I create a lazy slob, cruel paradox. Tangibly, I am getting things done. Things are getting checked off my list one by one. But mentally, I am more convinced than ever that I'm a lazy slob and that I always am going to need shame and strictness to keep my inherent lazy slobness in check. When you take action from shame, fear, scarcity, inadequacy, and I am not what I want to be thinking, you can create great tangible results. It is possible to do a lot of work from that place. But mentally, you stay on the treadmill of shame, fear, scarcity, inadequacy, and I am not what I want to be thinking. It's like the more you eat, the hungrier you get. There's water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Cruel paradox models are the exact reason why high achievers get everything they wanted and they're still not happy. Now, you might have another question for me. You might say, but wait, I can think of times when I started out of fear or out of shame, but then I didn't end up in this like cruel paradox that you're describing. That's because your thoughts changed on their own somewhere along the way. Starting out with fear or shame, and then unconsciously switching to confidence or to flow somewhere along the way is a very common phenomenon. It could be because of some interesting fact in a document while you were working, a little bit of positive feedback, an impending deadline, a playlist that you really like. Those are all external circumstances that can cause your brain to automatically switch to a different thought, a different emotion, and an overall model that you like better. And by the way, this is awesome. I am so glad that this happens. But I don't want you to be controlled by the circumstances that happen to trigger those automatic switches today. I don't want you to say things like, I can't feel confident unless I get good feedback from others. I can only get in flow if I have a deadline. I can't focus without the right playlist. All of that is you being controlled by your circumstances. My goal is to take this thought switch, which is happening unconsciously today, and put it fully into your hands. So you have more control over how you feel, how you act, and the tangible and mental results that you create. Also, that you don't have to be totally dependent on a fragile arrangement of circumstances, or just hope that your brain magically snaps into it in order to live the life that you actually want. That's principle 1. Principle 2, if you want something different in your life, you have to change your thoughts first. If the thoughts you believe become self-fulfilling prophecies, and if you can't outwork fear, shame, and inadequacy, because even if they make you do a lot of stuff, they put you into the cruel paradox where the more stuff you do, the more afraid, ashamed, and inadequate you feel, then making any change has to go like this. You have to change your thoughts first, and then let that trickle down into new emotions, new actions, and new results. When I am deep in a self-critical spiral, my brain is convinced that the right sequence of events is to call myself a lazy slob, because that's just a fact, then tell myself to go do a lot of stuff, you lazy slob. And then I think once I've done all that stuff, I will be and I will feel like a productive person. That sequence of events has never worked for me. This is the sequence that actually works. When I'm in the middle of a self-critical spiral, I have to believe that I'm a productive person now. And then I have to feel like and act like a productive person. And that's how I become a productive person in terms of my tangible results, and also in terms of how I feel and what I believe about myself, inside and out. Whatever you think will be true about you at the end of the journey, you have to believe and feel those things about yourself now in order to get there, in order to stay there, and in order to actually feel like you got there when you get there. So don't ask yourself the question, what do I need to do? And then how can I make myself do it? Instead, ask yourself the question, what do I need to believe about myself? Who do I need to be? And how can I step into their skin right now? Now, guys, this is not manifestation mumbo jumbo. This works because of the way that your brain works. You have an automatic brain and a deliberate brain. It's really automatic mental processes and deliberate mental processes. That just gets really long-winded to say. You may know of them as System 1 and System 2 from Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Now, your automatic brain does over 90% of your thinking without any conscious awareness, conscious effort, or conscious intention from you. Your automatic brain maintains a coherent story of who you are, what's going on, and how the world works at all times. And you can't stop this automatic thinking, even if you tried. All this automatic thinking just floats up in front of your deliberate brain. And it all seems like objective facts, not like subjective thoughts and stories and interpretations. For example, it doesn't feel like I'm thinking I'm a lazy slob. It feels like I'm a lazy slob, and that's just a fact. Your deliberate brain lazily approves most of the conclusions that your automatic brain has already come to. Doing ground-up objective critical thinking takes a lot of energy and effort. You only do it when it really matters. And all those conclusions that your automatic brain is so busy coming to, your automatic brain is not a scientist. It does not take in all available data, consider multiple viewpoints, and come to thoughtful, balanced conclusions. Your automatic brain is a confirmation bias machine. It constantly filters the world to confirm what you already believe. by highlighting everything that proves your existing beliefs and suppressing or discounting anything that contradicts them. This is why when you take lots of action from shame, fear, or inadequacy, you end up in the cruel paradox. You did lots of stuff. You created great results, but you never reset the belief in your confirmation bias machine. So the machine kept on confirming the belief that you started out with, no matter how much evidence is piling up to the contrary. So you might want to ask me, Pooja, how do I just believe new things at the drop of a hat? How do I reset the belief in this machine? I already gave you my current playbook for getting out of self-critical spirals in part 1 of this series. I've also written a full 7-part series on how to believe something new, which I've linked above. And my table of contents has hundreds of articles full of thought exercises, reframes, and helpful questions for all kinds of situations. And if you come to work with me, we will delve into my never-ending bag of tricks to unstick your current beliefs and start planting new ones. But here's what's way more important than the answer to that question. It's the fact that you are asking the right question. Asking the right question, pointing your brain at the right problem to work on, aiming your effort at the highest point of leverage. That is 80% of the battle right there. And if you keep your focus on that question, how do I believe this new thing that I want to believe? And if you keep getting in there, working on it every day, noticing what works, noticing your resistance, looking for thought suggestions, trying new things until it clicks, you will definitely get there. Because that's all I did to create my own playbook. I'm not some kind of unique genius. I just kept trying new stuff and noticing what worked and what didn't. That's all you need to do too. That's principle number 2. Now let's talk about the last principle, principle number 3. Use this process of noticing and changing your thoughts to befriend and become yourself. If you could see previous versions of my Get Out of Self-Critical Spiral playbook, you would notice that they were very aggressive. I had Excel spreadsheets full of new thoughts to think, which I forced myself to stare at like a goose being force-fed. I had lists of evidence that should prove my new thought. I had stickies and Post-its everywhere. And I had a lot of annoyance and frustration when things didn't click. And it wasn't what I was doing that was the problem. It was the way that I was doing it. It was the thought that was driving me to want to change my thoughts. It was why I was doing all this stuff to begin with, the intention and the purpose behind the whole exercise. This process is just a tool like any other process. You can use a hammer to build a house, or you can use it to kill somebody. Neither is inherent to the hammer. It's all in how it's used. In the same way, you can use this process to judge, shame, and punish yourself as yet another high-stakes arena where you have to do it right, or yet another remedy to finally fix yourself. Or you can use this process to get to know yourself better, to become more intimate with yourself, to laugh at your quirks, to look with fascination at your rough edges, to grasp hands with your 5-year-old self, to run wild and free beside the soft animal that lives inside of you, to excavate the truth of who you really are and bravely bring it to light. Neither of those is inherent to the process. It's all in how it's used. And let me tell you, this might be the most important principle of all. What you think about your current self, how you feel about that version of you that is 100% stuck in her current thinking and totally resistant and refuses to budge, what you think about her is your relationship with yourself. And if you can use this process as a vessel to infuse that relationship with love, patience, understanding, good humor, curiosity, compassion, if you can use this process to make that relationship into the best relationship in your life, to make it into the relationship of your dreams straight out of a fairy tale, honestly, that's all you really need. Because then this process will become so fun and enlivening to you that you'll go out there and get 1,000,000 reps and you will easily figure the rest out. Now, I want you to put these principles into action in your life. And the fastest, easiest, most efficient way for you to do that is to work with a coach. You can do it on your own too. You are more than smart enough. I just want you to get there as quickly and directly as possible. There is no need for you to reinvent the wheel or do it all by yourself. Lean on the experience and expertise of a professional, the same way you do when you hire consultants at work or a personal trainer for your fitness or a financial planner for your money. You just get there faster when you stand on the shoulders of other people's knowledge. I want you to make your relationship with yourself into the best relationship in your life. And I want you to get started today. So go to the link above and book a free coaching consult.